What Drives You is brought to you by Ziegler, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziegler.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome to What Drives You, the podcast for driven people who want to drive further, faster, and enjoy every minute of the drive. I'm Kevin Miller, and in every episode, I've devoted myself to helping you get more clear on exactly what you want and why you want it. You have all the drive you need within you. We're just here to give it fuel. This is one of our What Drives Your Health episodes where we give specific focus to our health and wellness. That's the vehicle that drives everything that we do. And in this episode, we continue talking through stories of people who made big health changes and why they did it. In this episode, we specifically cover breast implant illness, having the consummate dad bod, weight loss after a child called this lady fat, aching knees and hips from being heavy, quitting tobacco, afib, and type 2 diabetes. I'm with my health guru and best friend, Randy James, medical doctor and functional medicine expert. And as always, he gets to speak from his daily experience with patients, people like you and me. Here we go. So here we are standing to do the podcast, and you're standing a little odd. The great Dr. James, the bastion of health and wellness, has put his back out. What happened?
Yeah, I'm trying to change my mindset because earlier today I had said, to my great shame, and that's just not fair to me or anybody, because we are all human, and we're all potentially injurable. And so, yesterday, just potting some plants, and granted, it was in an awkward position in the yard where they were about on a step, maybe 18, 20 inches high. So bent over in a weird position for an hour, and it just did something weird, seized up, went out, felt bad, pinched. Mm-hmm. And then, so sleeping through the night with it and waking up with it and talking to our friends, the chiropractors here, to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as we talked, so we just got back from Starbucks with our weekly gathering of guys to talk about life, and you talking about that, and I, like you, tend to feel initially shame for any. Yeah. We just did the show. I got COVID. I was not. And I'll use my vernacular. I'll use my thought pattern. My thought pattern, what comes internally, is I wasn't strong enough.
Right. You couldn't handle it.
I wasn't strong enough to keep from getting COVID, and then when I got it pretty badly, or it did a number on me, and I don't like that. I want to think that Superman. I am. Yeah. And we do want to. I mean, we are all striving. Heck, that's part of the show and part of the wellness initiative that we're a part of here, is to say, how can I be becoming the type of person who does not get ill, injured, diseased, whatever, as much as possible. I guess that's what I'm saying, as much as possible. So here you are, and your back gave out. Now, to that, you're feeling bad, but we did talk about the reality that if you don't want to be the kind of guy, whoever has your back go out, you have to address a lot of things. I mean, I know for me, probably for everybody, but for me, food has such, if I take in foods that my body doesn't like, it causes inflammation. And according to my own personal makeup of past injuries and, however my body works, it tends to put my back out. Food does more than even just that. But the other side then would be, if you don't want to be the kind of guy who does potting soils in a weird place, you need to be every day doing yoga or jujitsu and rolling around and moving on. But we don't. You don't.
Right. No.
You run, play Frisbee or tennis or whatever.
Yeah. I do pretty, like you were saying, I do pretty straight line things.
Yeah.
Where I'm moving forward. I'm not juking. I'm not bending. I'm not burpeeing all the time. I'm certainly not stretching. And I think that's, I don't have any kind of focus on stretch the back out all the time for 5 minutes a day.
Well, we should be wrestling with our boys. Literally. I mean, that would be more helpful. Because I'm doing, push-ups, pull-ups, burpees, running, weights. But I'm not doing twisting, and I'm not flexible. And so I'm at risk for tomorrow. I'm going to be doing some woodwork at my house, and I'll be at great risk of lifting something, whatever.
Just a little wrong.
Abnormal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's maybe grace for ourselves, but if we don't want to,
We should. We're smart people, so we should say, okay, for 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like every day, most days, if I just do 5 minutes a day. And the problem is everybody's out there rolling their eyes and saying, yeah, but you've got 20, 30 different 5 minutes a day things that you need to be doing in order to be becoming the kind of guy. It gets overwhelming. Absolutely. And that's, so my tendency is also like you, I feel shame and incapacity and unresilience and unwell-being. And
then just I know what you talked about is just the inconvenience of now you have to do your day. Well, because you don't have the margin. That's another show. We should talk about, we don't have the margin to just go, okay, I'm going to blow everything off, because you got patients scheduled, you got business meetings, you've got kids stuff, and you're going to do there looking like Lurch.
Even just laughing puts some pressure on
we should share though. What are you going to do? So we have a chiropractor in the office here who is a chiropractor, but his main thing is dry needling.
Mm-hmm. He's a different guy. He was Canadian trained, and so the differentness there, in that both my family with my wife and your family with you and your wife have felt the difference there is his technique of dry needling. And so in my experience, thinking about acupressure and acupuncture and dry needling and all of that, growing up in the 80s where my dad was an MD and chiropractors got poo-pooed, right? It was just like, oh, that's kind of crazy. And now it's not. It's very viable. We know why these things kind of work. And so he does have, so dry needling as a technique is very valid. And basically you're putting a needle that's dry, meaning in the past, like in the 80s and 90s, they thought, okay, we're going to do a study because what's a wet needle?
I don't know.
Why do they call it dry needle?
I don't know.
So what they did back then was they said, okay, we're going to do a study and it's going to be randomized and blinded. So you can't blind the person putting the needle in, like they know. And wet means there's something there's medicine in the syringe. Oh. Or we're going to put a dry one in over here, meaning they didn't inject anything. So trigger point injection, where you actually inject some lidocaine, some marcaine, some steroid into a spastic muscle, versus dry needling. And they found, okay, yes, when you put medicine in there, that does something. But if you do dry needling, that does something too.
Can I give it layman's terms? So if you look at acupuncture, you're going to get a bunch of needles, and that's supposed to do your body reacts and
different.
I know. That's why I'm going to point out that's different. I don't know. So how would you describe
so the body does have these meridian lines. Yeah. So since the 80s, where the books started to come out, 80s, 90s, and now we know the body is an electrical system. And you picture a jellyfish, like it's almost electrified and luminescent and all that. Okay, we can't see the electromagnetic field, the aura going around you, but we can measure it. We can measure an EKG, the electricity off the heart, an EEG is measuring electricity. And even right now, we can hold a certain kind of a light bulb onto your skin and you would electrify it. Okay, so on that electrical patterning, we see in the heart a very, very specific electrical pattern, and there's Purkinje fibers that are very, very specific to the heart. And the brain has a very specific kind of electrical pattern going on. Well, turns out that, the traditional Chinese medicine and 5,000 years of this kind of history, that however they did it, these needles were found to do something along meridian lines. I don't know why they're called meridian lines, but there's electrical signaling going down throughout the body, so that when you put a needle in here, it does have an impact on something else in the body.
Can you, to some degree, even say like a histamine response or whatever? A bee's going to come or a mosquito and inject your, right here in the shoulder. Your body's going to react with that, with the swelling and stuff. It's trying to deal with it, so that the needle's going in. Your body reacts, and they get this benefit from acupuncture. Blah blah blah. But the dry needling is different. The dry needling, like he's going to go. It is different. Yeah.
He's going to feel. The bee, that's a chemical reaction.
Okay.
The needle from the acupuncturist is an electrical reaction. Okay. And what Stefan is doing is what I would call mechanical. It's putting a dry, bigger needle than they use for acupuncture. It's bigger. And so you feel it. Like acupuncture, you don't even hardly feel.
Yeah, I don't like his.
His is not comfortable.
It's uncomfortable because he's going to take you today, put you down on the mat. Where's it hurt? He's going to follow it up, and he's going to find some tightness. Oh my gosh, man, it's tight here. And instead of having a massage go in there and a masseur go in there and try to, he's going to take that needle, put that needle. It's going to pierce the muscle.
The angry muscle.
And it literally twitches
cramped.
and like release. It's amazing. I wanted to testify to it because in all my years of injuries and a lot of chiropractic, I have never had as tangible a response and benefit as from him. And I always say that. And so folks, can you find dry needling in your area? I am going to testify to him.
And we also need to say that I've had 2 other people do dry needling because physical therapy, Carol that we know, and I forgot his name, Matt. And both of those guys, when they did it, it was different than how Stefan does it. So I think that's there's a technique, and there's the hands of the master kind of a thing. And we've had many patients, and people just testify to his uniqueness. So yeah, for people out there who have chronic low back or chronic upper back, maybe even more, and he actually does a whole body thing, where he's doing your arms and your legs but yeah, to testify to the reality that the body is this mystifying conjugation of chemical communication, electrical communication, mechanical communication, all going on, and we all take it for granted. And I take it for granted. I haven't been treating my back in such a way as to give it what it needs to be a 3-year-old guy who can do an hour of potting plants at 20 inches off the ground and not have a back pain.
Well, and of course, who knows what happened? I mean, did you have ice cream the night before and it caused inflammation, or whatever food caused inflammation? So you're already at risk. Then you're doing a position
weird position.
Yeah. And were you,
that's what I mean. All of the,
were you sitting there doing it stressed about whatever,
mad that I'm potting plants or happy that I'm
thinking
potting plants.
about a work that who knows? Yeah. Well, okay. Well, there you go. So you're human. Well, we have some other humans here on this trajectory of people who made significant health gains. It's such interesting stuff. That's why I love these Q&As, because it brings stuff out I would never think to talk about. So Renee Vider, she said, I had breast implants put in at age 27. It was 9 years later in 2019 when I noticed my health going downhill at a rapid pace. I had no idea what was going on, nor did my doctors. You must just be getting older, said a doc. I ate healthy, was always active before getting ill, knew my body well. It was July 4th, 2019, when I came to know what was ailing me. I learned about BII, breast implant illness, and it was in my face 3 times in 1 week. I knew I must have them removed. So in 2019, I was blessed to rid my body of the toxic bags. Instead, inside my body, and regained my health rapidly. I had more than half of the BII symptoms, and today I can report that God is good and gracious, and I no longer suffer with nearly any of them. And she also said, by sharing the journey publicly, at least 10 women have been helped after identifying the cause of their strange health issues and having theirs removed.
Well, and we'll share that story even further. And so for me, there have been 2 women who have had this, that I've walked down that journey with them. And so over the past 4 years, 5 years maybe, had one particular patient who very similarly, and so through, she was here back when you probably
I actually
remember.
know both the ones you're talking about now that I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it's been several years ago.
Yeah.
And these were both very smart, intelligent, driven women.
Health-minded.
Yeah. And one was a healthcare professional. And that was new to me, was the idea that could there be a problem with the implants? I mean, that is not some place where people go to think about. And we have to be very careful here, because a lot of women will hear this, and there's a lot of people that have implants with no problems. And so another corollary kind of idea is a root canal, right? Like you've got a root canal is a foreign body in your body, right? It is a dead tooth with metal in it. By definition, it is not healthy to have a root canal. It is a burden on the body. The body has to deal with it. By definition, whatever you put inside your breast is a foreign body. And they say, well, same with titanium implants and those kind of things. So the titanium hip implants and stuff like that, probably a different category, but over here with the saline or what was it before, the silicone breast implants and then a root canal are more potentially toxic to the body, to the immune system. So it's not going to be in every woman, because a lot of women will hear that and say, I've had it for 10, 20, 30, whatever years, no problem for me. Okay, right? Like other people have root canals, no problem. And other people, it's devastating. So,
and is it just the foreign body or is it reacting?
It's the reaction.
Because we're talking about, like you say, saline or silicone. We're not talking about a leak and whatever fluid necessarily.
No, I had one
cause.
I had one. So one of these women had it removed and had found out that there was a fungal infection. That somehow, either in the surgery or somewhere else or whatever, that had been the suspicion that there was an identified toxin that was of a fungal family, and the other woman had them removed and felt better, but there was nothing identified as the actual toxin to which she was reacting, and so it brings up this incredibly, just like me and my back or somebody else with a root canal. I've had people who they read a book about root canals, or like this woman, like she said, 10 women have been helped by this, but maybe 100 women went and had them removed and didn't get help with it. And we don't know those stories because they don't tend to go public with, oh my gosh, I spent $20,000. I had these things removed and I still feel bad.
Yeah.
Like nobody goes public with that. Or removal of root canals and nothing happened. They just still feel like I'm still stuck in this problem and the medical system won't help me and whatever else. So approach this with deep, deep wisdom, that it's not that we would look at women and say, oh, you've got a breast implant. Well, that's the problem. We would say, as in the clinic, somebody comes in, we have to look at all of these things. Well, we just, the body electric, the body chemical, the body emotional, the body spiritual, all of these things go into the body pathology. What are you feeling, sensing? Is it pain? Is it in your brain? Is it in your mind, emotion, will? Is it in your past? The ACEs questionnaire. All of that stuff is going along. And let's just use ACEs. If that particular woman had a big ACEs score like Tana Amen did, is it an increased chance that her breast implants are going to cause a problem? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Is it an increased chance that the root canal is that one straw on the camel's back that causes XYZ problems? Yes. Well, what if somebody didn't have ACEs questionnaire or a high score and they're going along in life? Are they more likely to be able to tolerate the burden of a breast implant or a root canal or a tough job or potting plants? Yes.
Okay, so ultimately on this, what's the relevance? As you're saying, if you have any foreign object, it's a risk, period. End of story.
Which is all of us. And then, so for those out there with a root canal or a breast implant or anything foreign, that if you are in ill health, feeling ill in any way, you should at least put that as a primary possibility. Awareness.
It just along with a bad ACE score, with whatever stressors bad stressors in your life.
And then we have to say, and I'm so sorry to everybody, but before you start thinking down that pathway, what are the biggies are still, what are you putting in your mouth every day?
Yeah.
What are you not putting in your mouth? How much fasting are you? How are you sleeping?
Yeah.
Do you like your job? Do you like your dog? Are you in good relationship with your wife?
Are you anxious and worried and stressed out?
Those are the big straws on the camel.
Those are going to be more primary. Yep. But for those out there and those who are considering, we have more people more women getting breast implants than ever, I think.
I don't know the stats on that.
I think I heard somewhere. Who knows? It was media somewhere, probably promoted by Plastic Surgery Foundation. But if you are, it's just a consideration. It's of course it's a risk, no different than anything.
Yeah, driving a car.
Sure. Okay. Here's Steve Chaplesky. He says, in 2006, I was 190 pounds with a dad bod. I took on running in that year. I did my first half marathon and first full marathon. I've been under 165 since then and still love running. The catalyst was a challenge a friend tossed at me when she heard I wanted to do a marathon before I die. So I asked him, I said, what was the catalyst? Was it the encouragement, the accountability? He says it ended up being both. Encouragement was first, and I became her training partner. And that's when accountability took over. It was the last, so this is episode 81 and 80, talking again about other people and their stories, where we did come to, again, just the incredible power of having even just one person to help you be, whether you like the word accountability, a lot of people, I think has a negative connotation to that. So just say encouragement, support, somebody to walk that with you, a blue zone in essence. And so the gift, what's the gift to me that I I mean, I have a healthy, health-minded family, but I get to come to the office every day and we're going to have, today we had coffee. Now we're doing a show. We're going to sit in the back porch and our topics of conversation are going to be positive, wellering, trying to better ourselves. Is there more powerful blue zone that exists? No. I mean, it's glorious. No, that's what Steve's talking about.
The phrase that I keep coming back to that I think is a good book title or tagline or whatever is that your life is your medicine. Mm-hmm. And Steve's life is running, is this friend, is challenging himself, is right. And many people have that story of, the bucket list marathon and I have that one too. And I don't know if I've ever shared that with you but I grew up hating running. It just was, I had the history of asthma. And so it was always a failure trigger. Right. Mm-hmm. But was pretty athletic in high school, but running was always just a burden. And then we had a baby and I was strolling around with it, doing a jog, and we were in Germany and I thought, I bet I could run to that next town over there. And then I also had a colleague and he was a doc and he outranked me and I didn't like him. He was kind of and then he made a comment about, cause I was like, oh man, I can't believe we have to do the physical fitness test. And he looked at me, he's like, don't you ace that thing every time? I'm like, yeah. Do you? He's like, well, yeah. I mean, aren't you actually? And I was like, wait a minute. It just flipped my paradigm around. Like, why was I mad at the United States Air Force for trying to keep me in shape? Mm-hmm. Why did I not perceive that as a gift? I mean, they literally pay you to run, pay you to go do some exercise time. That was a paradigm shift. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make an A on my test. And I became, that flipped and I became a runner in the blue zone kind of, and doing the events and being with those people. And now remember we did the show on, do you see yourself as athletic?
Yeah.
That is one of those things where even though I don't run all the time every day, I still would see myself as a runner because of that. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep doing that.
I've admitted, and we did on that show, I love being an athlete. I love that as part of my own self-image. So I was just in Florida and I was with, three, boys specifically from 14 to mid 20s who are athletic ones, firemen and does Spartan races and all this kind of stuff. And we were playing ultimate Frisbee and I did really well, and I love that. I'm the year-old guy out there, but kicking, but I love having that and having that ability. But, having the accountability with each other is so strong.
Can I comment on one thing that he said that resonates with me is I don't want to be a dad bod.
Yeah.
And now, these days we have dad hats and, dad clothes. And my wife told me the other day, those are dad jeans. And I'm like, on that one, it's like, you're darn right. I don't wear skinny jeans. I wear dad jeans.
Yeah.
But I don't want a dad bod.
Yeah. I appreciate it. My kids respect that. I mean, I get another level of respect. My little boy, loves that I've got, and I mean, look, I'm pretty thin dude, but I've got some muscles that I can do the pull-ups. I can do the push. They love that. And my older kids then have told me, testified that is so inspiring, kind of a blue zone that I have helped inspire them. And so now my three of my older kids, 21 to 25, all, Caleb's in Florida. He's got a gym membership. He's really, buffed out. My daughter, I just helped her get another mountain bike and she participates in that. The other one is looking at actually going into fitness as a profession. And
yeah, my kids don't appreciate me.
Well, they're not that age yet. They're not that age yet. Seriously. Because my boys that are your boys' age are not. I have to prod them to get their butts out there. Well, here's another one. Actually, you know what? We've got another one. Scott Womack talks about his own journey. He lost a lot of weight, 63 pounds. And his testimony is ultimately, he says he did so many crash diets, so many big commitments, and that the thing that made it for him is deciding that my goal was life change and slow and steady progress. And so he just gave a great testimony. But right after that, and there's a lot of people that talked about weight. This one I wanted to pull out. Marianne Schutz, she says, she just responded with, what was her catalyst? My son called me fat. I cried hard and then decided enough was enough. Now I'm down almost as much as he weighs, 90 pounds. Bye-bye. I just love that. I love the vulnerability of that. But man, that is real and true. And there is so much, as we talk about this, you talked about shame a minute ago in regards to your back. When we're talking about health, we could probably do a whole show just on shame. Mm-hmm. And so this is not a, good, bad, or on what Marianne talked about, but to some degree, I'm grateful that mattered to her, that she didn't just take that and let it be defeat. She didn't get mad at her son. She looked at that, and that obviously had gravity. I know you deal with this a lot, where you have spouses or people in particular whose spouses are in bad shape. And your testimony was that primarily you see a lot of women who come in and they're frustrated with their husband's lack of tending to their health and wellness. And, a husband who's fat, out of shape, sick, I don't know, but they're frustrated, with that, gosh, to her, I'm grateful for the accountability to my family.
Yeah.
In that.
This is a really, again, if everybody could please hear with deep wisdom and deep humility, because shame is, we could do a whole show on this, but the anatomy of shame, there are times when you should feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're guilty of a crime, of a sin, then shame is the God-given sense within you of, I am wrong and I need to change my mind. That's what Jesus said. When he said repent, the word metanoia, we played with that word a while back. Mm-hmm. And metanoia, change your mind. And the vehicle, the status, the catalyst, like that's what you're asking. What changes people's minds? So there's the mindset, soul set, whatever. And I ask, like we ask people here, if somebody quit smoking, I say, what was the thing that helped you to do that? And it's most often is inspiration or pain. Like she felt pain from her son who said, well, you're fat. And remember in the 90s, there was that doctor who got sued because he was just a normal internist, not a functional medicine guy, but became a big New York Times article. And the woman, it was a woman, and she was complaining about this and that and the other. And he said, well, one of the problems is you're fat. And she sued him.
Wow.
And it just became this big deal. And so now we have this, this, again, hear it with deep wisdom, because we have a culture that idolizes the body and idolizes all these things. And we do have a wrong perception on body image and sexuality and all of those things. But at the same time, personal accountability, and maybe we could say, well, I should feel some degree of shame for my back. Like I can, or accountability, or whatever the word is. Like I do need to stretch. If I want to be becoming the kind of guy who can do these things, I've got to have a response.
Well, back to that thing of, because the tendency in our culture right now is to say, oh, you caught a bad back. You caught a back injury. Like
darn it.
It was just floating around and it fell on
right
you.
on my
It didn't
back.
fall on me. Just like me. I caught
you with COVID.
Yeah. And to say, no, how can I not have some personal responsibility? I mean, we want to absolve that out of the culture.
That's
and
right.
It's so volatile to do. But then I do want to hit on the side of taking responsibility also gives me power. Without it, I'm a victim. I mean, that's just,
there you go.
It's the math.
Right. And
so you taking responsibility is actually better. Your health will be better. You'll have a better recovery time, chance of it not happening again if you do take responsibility, as with grace.
With that's what we said, with grace, with wisdom, with gentleness, with kindness, as unto God. And we would say the very same thing as a parent. Like, my child is going to choose his own choice, but at the same time, I'm also his parent. I have some responsibility. That gives me power and encouragement. I can help, I have a lot of control over a 2-year-old, less control over a 15-year-old, but I still have influence in my marriage. If the marriage is going south and I blame my wife, which is what people tend to do.
Sure.
Well, okay, you're the victim. She's in total control of every thought you have.
You have no power.
I have no power. And health-wise, I think, because we were talking about this morning, but if we shift it over and out of the emotion, the mindset, and the marriage, we come over here to the health status of our American culture is everybody feels powerless. They feel like they caught a bad back, or it's genetic, or it was just in the cards that I have, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or depression, or anxiety, or whatever. And it's like, gosh, if you want to be in that victim state where you have no control, no power, I mean, nobody can help you. But on the flip side, we're not saying you can be younger, smarter, better, faster all the time. And if you have anything go wrong with you, you're 100% to blame. There is a wisdom approach to this that says it is both. And it's infinitely complex. And at the end of the day, you don't have total control. You have some control. At the end of the day, you have freedom and choice and responsibility. And the sun's going to come up tomorrow, whether you want it to or not. And the economy is going to do what it's going to do. But you still can save money or spend money. The infiniteness of all that drives us to our knees to say, oh, God, please help. And now what can I do?
And I am going to, as you say that about control, I am going to admittedly, so consciously in my awareness, I'm going to err on the side of feeling I have maybe even more control than I should, which I think is okay if there's grace to keep away the shame, which you and I are not real great with. We tend to fall on the shame.
True. And I would say, I would agree with you, but I was also going to say, yeah, but is that part of that is your tendency to want to be in the whitewater? I want to control my boat and be going over here, and we're back to both.
It is. Well, okay. Well, I want to ask. So let's hit it for real. You're back. So now what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to do what you do to get past it. And your choices are to say, well, I am no longer going to pot plants, do landscaping. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to expose myself to the possibility of doing this irregular movement for me that's outside of, what I normally do, whether you take control or not. But I am no longer going to do that. I would say that is primarily the norm. At our age now, we're at the point of the injury happens. You're now going to baby your back.
People quit skiing.
Yeah.
They quit playing tennis. They quit. Yeah.
You're going to quit doing that. Okay. So that's one option, is you quit doing it. Second option is you're going to say, okay, next time I do that, I am going to prepare for that. I'm going to make sure I didn't have sugar the night before, or that I'm not stressing out. I'm going to and the likely thing is I'm going to be really careful. Really, I'm going to bend with my knees, right? That's what I tell you. I'm not going to do that. If I get tired or I feel like I'm getting a little fatigued, I'm going to stop and rest. And so you're going to protect.
Be careful. Yeah.
Then the other one is saying, I want to do that. I don't want to have to be so super careful. And so I'm going to start doing 5 minutes of yoga today. Or I keep thinking jujitsu because we watched this movie last night, and the warm-ups for the jujitsu were literally rolling over like on your back, like being on the floor and rolling over, and it stretches your arm out and you're literally flipping over on your back, and they're doing all these moves that if I did, I'd probably put my back out. Yeah. But if I did that for 5 minutes a day, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I would gain it. So you have three options there. And so I'm saying that to all of us out there, when that injury happens, that wake up call to, whatever weakness we may have or whatever, are we a victim to it? Do we have some control? And then what are we going to do going forward, especially those in later years, after 40, 50, whatever it is? It seems like the weakness age is getting younger all the time. But yeah, so what are you going to do? And my bet is you're going to just be a little more careful next time. That's where the rubber hits the road.
Again, to my shame, this happened earlier this winter where not quite as bad, but I had that one incident when we had that giant snow, for 3 feet or whatever of the drifts. And I was thinking, gosh, I better protect my back. And then it actually happened, kind of a little bit less. And so now twice within 6 months. And so what I want to do is to do the yoga piece, to do the stretch piece, to say, okay, because you and I, we've talked about that. That's one thing we don't do. We tend to say, okay, I have an hour to exercise. I'm going to run.
I don't want to stretch and I don't want to meditate. That's an admission.
Right. It doesn't feel good. I don't do it very well. It's not fun. It's not any of those kind of things. And so where I am right now, that's where I'm making plans to go. Okay. Is to add that mechanism into my workout routine, prayer routine, or whatever routine and I like the idea, not so much of jujitsu, but the idea of, what's the other one? Tai Chi, where the mindfulness in motion, the idea where you're doing a meditative stretch, you're doing even breath work, bringing all that in there. And I can't remember if we've done a show on this thing, but I would tell people, don't think of that as, that's like being a monk, or that's Near Eastern, or that's New Age, or that's yoga, or that's somehow if you're doing yoga, you're praying to some foreign god or something like that. I say, no. In fact, these techniques called breathing and stretching, they're like gravity. They're human. They're not one religion or the other. All humans breathe and stretch and move. It's how can I incorporate those truths into these other truths?
Yeah, and I want to point out on that it is, if we look at, again, the Blue Zones by Dan Buettner that we talk about every other show I think about, and he talks about those folks don't need to exercise. Their life is exercise. Mm-hmm. They don't eat healthy, or they don't have to try to diet and eat healthy. They just do. It's just part of their thing. That if we go back to that hunters and gatherers, we would get up in the morning and you're going to be, reaching in a hole for this and reaching there and climbing a tree and doing all those activities to where you don't need to go stretch. Your life is stretching. We don't have that. And when you talk about that, the thoughtful stretching, all that, it's almost kind of back to the Dr. James question. Dr. James, what's the best exercise for me?
The one you'll do.
The one you'll do. And I think so far I've not gotten myself to do the stretching and to do the plyometrics, whatever. I would be, after watching that show last night, it'd be great for me to join a class. Literally, it's tempting to think about, to join a class, some martial arts, some whatever, where you grapple. And I spend 20 minutes grappling, I'm not going to do the Olympics. I don't really care. I'm not even looking for self-defense, but it just gives me an activity that's going to, by proxy, do those exercises that I really don't want to do otherwise. Yeah. You said something earlier today about we should be wrestling with our boys or our kids or something.
Yeah. And I didn't wrestle with my dad.
I didn't either.
And by the time I could effectively wrestle with him, he didn't wrestle with me. Because then, the tables had turned. And I was kind of joking with my 15-year-old who's, post-adolescent, he's strong, but he wouldn't win against me.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't try.
Yeah.
And that's and your older boy wouldn't have tried against you. And so
I did. So I did try it. My one of my daughters, Eliza, her boyfriend's a fireman, and his family, they wrestled like competitively.
And
so a couple of times I have with him, and it's actually been pretty fun. I was going to mention that, you talking about being in the military, he's a fireman. Uh-huh. They have pretty rigorous physical stuff. And I asked him, why don't the other
policemen?
Yeah. And I know, again, that's volatile. Sorry. But but why not? And to some degree, I wish we all.
Why don't I, in my own, if I'm going to hire you.
Okay, here. So let me read this because this will get us right into it. Brian Lynchard, he says, many years ago, I quit tobacco for the final time. I found something else that I wanted more. And of course, I responded, so what did you want more? He said, cheap health insurance.
Yeah, that's motivating.
Which was one step towards allowing me to get to be self-employed. So the real motive was self-employment. So he quit. How great would that be? So this gets into, I know we've got lots of thoughts on this, and we'll at some point talk about insurance and options for people there. But I just love the motive of a benefit or a consequence. And I like I think it's Allstate now who started it, at least the insurance, where if you put the little tracker in your thing, they're going to benefit you or penalize either way. Yeah. In your car for stopping at stop signs. I think how fast you stop, acceleration, and you could go forward, speed. How great would that be for all of us? And this is part of a big picture initiative that we would like to make happen if we were rewarded. Now, if you get a reward, then obviously you can lose a reward. That's a penalty. But if we just talk there, if we were all rewarded for our healthy decisions and our healthy biomarkers, and somebody said, because right now you could, well, you're not going to do this, but you could, if you had regular insurance, you would go to the chiropractor. Do they take insurance? Well, whatever. A lot of folks do. And you would use your insurance card. So you hurt your back, you're going to go. And if I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever, and you are too, then it's going to theoretically cost me more money because Randy hurt his back. And if you would say, I'm going to take up yoga and start taking a class, me as your insurance provider should come up then and say, hey, we're going to reward you for that. And you're now going to spend $30 less per month on your health insurance. And then when you stop the class and don't do that anymore, hurt your back again, we're going to say, okay, we're going to cover that, but we're going to bump your insurance up. Like car insurance.
Not penalized, just take that reward away.
Like car insurance. Yeah. So I've done that. I've had that happen with, I don't know if me, but with kids and stuff. And they're like, but in the third infraction, your insurance is going to go up, your car insurance. That would be such a gift to all of us.
I'm thinking about it through the lens of what if I went to my employees? Did you know that we do give them a gym membership
stipend or something like that?
Yeah, intended for gym membership or buy a new pair of shoes.
I don't know exactly where we're going to go, but like HR wise, we're going to get into some stuff as an employer that you can't even touch, I think, aren't you? Like benefiting or rewarding based on anything physical.
Any biomarker.
Okay.
Right. Like, can I not? Is there a law that I can't benefit you if your cholesterol
I don't know for sure. I think there's some sketchy. I mean, you can't. There's a lot of stuff you can't ask about as an employer or can't benefit or reward. I don't know. I think there's lots of stuff there, but
yeah, you're right. It's not like you could say, okay, what's your HIV status and what's your, genetics. Like, well, gosh.
Well, come on. To be frank, I mean, you got sued. Can we talk about? You got sued by an employee who was out of the office again for ill health, and you had to hire somebody because the job wasn't being done, and she was able to take that and think of that. As she didn't win the lawsuit, right. But it would cost more to deal with it.
Right. So getting into the legal kind of it, and that's why I think in America, it's just not in the near future. It's not going to be touched because this is so dicey.
But how great would it be for us to have that accountability?
Just like my own family, I want to hold my son accountable for his food choices and for your sake. I love you.
Yeah.
And I love my employees. And for your sake, I want to inspire you and create a blue zone in our office here.
Well, the kids is a good example because I told one of the kids this recently as we're talking about something. I don't get a benefit. There's not like some reward for me.
No, in fact, it's a pain in my rear to keep talking to you about this.
It'd be easier to just give you donuts every day. So why on earth am I making the effort to do it? I don't win. Nobody gives me points. It's just nothing but a pain in the butt for me. It's because I want wellness,
out of care and concern and for their well-being.
Well, it's a pain in my butt if they're sick or grumpy or whatever.
Well, true. You do know that in the future, like we've talked about before, if you don't teach and train your kids, then you have a grumpy toddler that runs the household. And it's like, it's not worth it to not put in time and effort over here to train up properly children and that kind of thing. But if we go over here to how to train up children and what they eat, the colossal pain that is when the world gives, 2 and 3 year olds Cheerios, even if they're gluten-free and corn-free and all these other free things, they're still Cheerios.
It's not a food.
It's not a food source that child needs for their
nutritional food.
It's training bad habits and all those kind of things. And then we have fast food on every corner, et cetera, et cetera. How, and even ourselves, myself, right? Like I didn't do what I needed to do for my back in order to do these same kind of things because I didn't train myself to do these other things. What if I set up as a policy in my own payment structure? Okay, Dr. James, we're going to pay you, 10% more if you do yoga every day.
Yeah, can you imagine the American?
Your dad talks like that.
The American workforce, if they're, you come in and your salary is going to be $35,000 a year. If you do X, Y, Z, achieve these biomarkers of health,
we'll pay you $45,000.
We'll pay you for it. I mean, it would be the best gift. And so for people out there, I don't see that happening. So why does it matter that we're talking about this? But just the reality of how much we do and don't do based on motive. Incentive, reward, penalty,
and pain. Yeah.
And most of us are going to wait till pain.
There's enough pain.
And
that's what our testimonies here are. We ask people, and most of these testimonies are
pain happened. And I'm, preaching to the choir with myself because when am I going to start yoga? Probably
when you throw your back out.
When I throw my back out.
When are you going to start meditating? When you have depression, anxiety.
Yeah. And so again, just to show the ridiculous of it, that Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we see this all the time. They're more prone to pay for a $20,000 accident than to pay $100 a month to help you be well and avoid the accident. That's just the way the medical community is. That's what we live in. That's what our culture is. And that is so hard to battle. We're back to the social pressure. So hard to battle that and to realize what's best for ourselves, our families, our culture is for us to be mature and for me to start taking yoga now so I don't put my back out.
For me to be mature and start stretching, doing that. For me to be mature and do my daily devotions and mindfulness and go to bed on time and we're right back to your life is your medicine or your life is your poison. And thank God he gave us pain. He get the blessing of pain so that I can see, oh my gosh, don't touch that. If you do, you burn your finger. Okay, well, how do I not touch the fire of not stretching my back out enough? Well, I got a little dose of pain a couple times. And so here I am wrestling with something else has to drop out of my life margin wise so that I can put something else in here. Well, and every person is on this spectrum.
And I do like the mental games that I play with myself. I think is a benefit of well, you talking about it, that this is not pessimistic, but this is life. If at 50 years old, I'm going to talk about us, and somebody else can extrapolate this to being 30 or 70 or whatever. But at 50 years old, what you would say, or what you have showcased to me, is I have illness, disease, handicap, disability, whatever. It is around me. It's knocking on the door. It's always there. It's just life is happening. And I am either living this day right now, opening or shutting the door of propensity for that to happen. I can't guarantee it. Obviously, I still got COVID. You can't guarantee it. Your back went out. But then we're making the choices by all the things we talk about here, how we eat, how we sleep, how we stress, recovery, all these things, making the choice to further open or shut the door. And that's great to know. That's a great power.
Gives you power.
Yeah, absolutely. And even and grace too, to say today, I'm choosing,
not stretch.
Yeah. Or I'm going to celebrate, and I'm going to have a donut. It's been 6 months. I'm going to have a donut. And you would say that, like the birthday cake at the birthday that happens once a quarter, man, that is righteous, good, and holy cake, man. Enjoy that sucker. Just don't have it the next day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and over. Tonight, I'm going to go and buy a nice bottle of wine and have that.
And I'm not.
Okay.
And that's okay, because we are on those different places, different times. So when you said the propensity, and it gives you great encouragement, it's I have control over a lot of these things, opening the door to the propensity, the chance, the risk. Everything is risk, awareness, and mitigation. When you drive and when you get married and when you have a kid, you're guaranteed some pain and some trouble, but you're also very likely to have wonderfulness, and that's life. The flip side of that is the person who hears that and says, oh my gosh, that's overwhelming. I have to think about every bite that goes in my mouth. Oh my gosh, I have to think about, and on one hand, I'd say, well, yes, because you're either thinking about it or you're mindlessly stuffing something in there. But let me use the analogy of driving. Do you have to think about every single turn? Yeah. Step on the gas, step on the brake. You think about every single thing that you do. Yeah. But you also don't think about it in such a way of like, okay, I could die in the next minute, right? Okay. Oh my gosh, what's that car going to do? What's that car going to do? What's that car going to do? Do I need to stop 30 feet ahead or 33 feet ahead? Do I need to, you set up, now when you were 16, like my son is 15 and we're driving.
No, my son's 16 and you've been driving like a month, and he is.
Right. He's on it. Like he is thinking mirrors, click 100 feet before the stop sign right now. Okay. We're going to click the clicker, both hands on the wheel all the time. And it's not pointless to have a conversation because he's like, huh, what, huh? And thank God he's doing that, because if he was not paying attention, he doesn't have those things set up, that default mode network that's in your brain that says, okay, clickers, and when it starts to rain, I know exactly what to do. And he's like, where's the thing? Where's the thing? Where's the thing? And that's how life is. When you begin so most of us have now been eating. If we go to nutrition, exercise, eat, sleep, all of those things, if you're 25 and older, you've been doing that in this default mode network that you're not aware of the fact that you actually do eat a lot more carbs than you think you do. And you might think you fast or skip a snack, but if you go 15 hours, you're crushed by this. You might think you go to bed on time, but if we look at that watch, you're only really getting 6 hours of real sleep a night, etc. And then along comes back pain, Randy, to make you aware. And that's like in the car, along comes somebody honks at you and like, I didn't know I was drifting in this lane, or now the car buzzes you or whatever it does. And that increases safety. And on the driving analogy, and over here on the life analogy, that increases the propensity. Mm-hmm. So when people are 50 and they're like, wait a minute, really? Like they freak out. Go a day without eating? That's not healthy. My body gets grumpy and hangry and irritable, and I would say it's because you've trained it to be that way. And are you going to die if you don't fast? No, but you cannot be becoming that kind of resilient person.
Well, you're going further. I mean, you're talking about fasting. We have people who have trained themselves and to the ability where they cannot go without carbs.
Snack.
Yeah. Well, snack, carbs,
Right.
Gluten, whatever.
Or wine, or
Sure.
donut, or coffee, or swiping the phone, or checking what Amazon has for you today. And it's me too, right? Like I can't go without not stretching. And so I think everybody needs to hear that. And right now, everybody should feel convicted. Guilt, shame.
I want to come back to your statement about driving, that we would all say no matter how much can you afford to take your eyes off the road as a driver? I mean, except for a quick glance, we would pretty much say none. Whether you're the 16-year-old who's just started or you're us. And I think that I drive mindless. I do drive mindlessly. And a lot of people have done that, man. You go on a road trip and you realize, gosh, past 20 miles, I can't remember anything, but your eyes never left the road.
Right.
So as we look at our health and wellness, how much can we, because I feel like people get that, especially even your patients, to go, holy smokes, the effort that it takes to be this aware. I mean, I got to think about everything that I eat, everything that I buy, grocery shopping now, and what I buy. And to realize that we do it. We do it mindlessly. We take our eyes off the road. And I'm grateful now that through my journey, with you, I don't ever put something in my mouth thoughtlessly. I mean, I literally don't. I mean, I look at it, if wherever we're out at a social event or what I'm going to buy or whatever, I am carefully thinking about every single thing that I eat, even if it is, I'm going to do a donut.
Yeah.
I'm going to do, I'm
full awareness.
Totally aware.
Yep.
And we don't have, it's interesting. You used to have people drop off reps and stuff, junk food here. They don't do that anymore because you just throw it away. But how can we take I love that perspective. How much can I afford to take my eyes off? Not just my eating, but my health and wellness.
Let's go with the driving analogy, because everybody has taken a text on the road.
You've caught me and chastised me. You saw me driving by one time.
Like, I'm texting.
Yeah.
And I've done it, and we've all done it. And I the other day I was because now my son, and as he's sitting in the passenger seat, and my phone bings, and I'm like, grit my teeth and say, "Can you check my phone for me?"
Yeah. That happened this morning. I was sitting there trying to finagle with mine, and my daughter said, "Can I help you with that?" And I handed her the phone.
And to my great shame, right? Like. And now and on the road, we've all also saying, that guy's texting. Mm-hmm. And we've watched him drift. You can tell. When people are doing that.
Or for me, it's the stop. I'm waiting for the light to turn and wondering what the chances are that somebody in front of me is not going to go, as they often don't. We have more, the horn honking has got to have increased exponentially.
And I look at people's eyes because they're driving along. And if you see them glance down, I know what you're doing. You're not checking the radio. And I want to say, stop that. But then 2 minutes later, I might just have that. Yeah, but when I do it, I really need to get this message across.
I'm on the way to the grocery and my wife is sending me the list and I got to get this. Yeah.
Okay. So we're aware and that's what we're asking people to do with their food. It's kind of increasing that sense of awareness that even though, so the default mode network of driving is, yes, you're thinking about a million things all the time, but if you can set up the pattern of eating this way, and then you get to go on autopilot. Mm-hmm. You get to do that. And for exercise, you and I need to input stretching and mindfulness, and then if we did that, then we would get to be on autopilot. But right now, it means I can't do something else because I'm trying to put this thing in here and it's not autopiloted, so it feels weird. Mm-hmm. And I would say, yes, it does, no different. And we said this before too. If I stuck a golf club in your hand and said, go knock yourself out and try to golf, it would be a disaster. Terrible, yeah. And mine might be a little bit better, but Tiger Woods over here, but he has a coach and he's got all these other things. And if we said the same thing with food or mindfulness or marriage or following God the best that you can, or any of those things, the training of it, the coaching of it, you're never as good as you could be. You're always got a propensity to be a little bit worse, to be a little bit better. And so it could be great encouragement to have the control you do, or it could be fully overwhelming. Everybody's on that kind of we're all on that journey, and that's good. At the end, it's good.
It is good. And I want to anchor this with the problem that we come to with this talk of accountability, awareness, control, responsibility, which those are the threads of this show of personal development, of personal growth. But the place that we go awry, Kevin Miller has gone awry, as we've mentioned the word shame so much time, is not having grace. So
to yourself.
Yeah. So in all this, that you would be wrong. I'm going to use the word wrong for you to just live in shame and self-condemnation because you put your back out.
I agree.
You did. So you did. You're going to take some responsibility for that. You're going to deal with it and have some grace, because over here, the guilt, we have wrecked more health and wellness in the preaching of it and allowing guilt to come in with that than maybe anything else. So
it's a good way to end.
Friends, thanks for tuning in as we all work to leverage the power of our unique inner drive and wake every day to our authentic, driven, and inspired lives. Thanks as always to my great friend, Randy James, Dr. James. You can find him and see if you want to connect with him and get his care at truelifemedicine.com. If you got value from the podcast, it'd be a gift if you'd let us know and give us a rating on Spotify, or a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. You can go subscribe at YouTube and watch these episodes in full at kevinmiller.co. That's also kevinmiller.co, where you can find me on social media. We have a lot of clips these days. You can get great little sound bites every day on your social media from the shows. If you want to learn how to master your own inner drive, get my book, What Drives You, on Amazon. And until next time, stay driven.
Yeah.